right, so what does this all mean? I mean, the bottom line, this is someone who's contradicted what was said by one of the accusers, but was it in her own interest to contradict it? Because do you really want to be the person who is luring someone into Harvey Weinstein's hotel room and shutting the door to make sure that she's in there with naked Harvey? All right, let's bring in our think tank tonight. Joining us, criminal defense attorney Suri Chada Jimenez and criminal defense attorney Ashley McMahan in New York City tonight. Criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor David Katz, and criminal defense attorney Bernarda Villalona. Okay, Bernarda, let me begin with you. Is she really going to come into that courtroom and say, oh yeah, I was there, I lured her, and I shut that door to make sure that Harvey could do his naked best with her inside that bathroom?
Absolutely not. And anyone who would have thought that that's exactly what she was going to do is obviously out of their mind. Why would she come and admit that she's committing a crime, aiding some pervert to actually attack another female? There's no way she was going to admit that. She's not going to put herself in any kind of criminal passage of charges. Absolutely not.
David Katz, your thought about how effective this witness is. And obviously, you know, she swears to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And she's saying, I don't remember anything like that ever happening.
Well, the witness was extremely effective for the defense, and it seemed like the prosecution had a pretty strong inkling that this was coming. And you wonder why they even brought that prosecution witness on that they did, knowing that her credibility was going to be demolished by this defense witness. So I found that really kind of startling. It's true that she had a reason not to admit that she was there, but if you're going to come forward as a prosecutor, and I was a federal prosecutor for 6 years, you wonder why you would put on the stand someone who's going to say, Harvey Weinstein was in front of me, this lady was behind me, when you knew that the defense was going to figure out who the lady was. The prosecution actually had interviewed Claudia before. She'd been more non-committal in her remarks. She was very, she was very emphatic in her denials on the stand. But they knew that there was going to be a problem with her, the prosecution did. And so you kind of wonder why they even brought on, I think it's Miss Young, right, is the prosecution witness. You wonder why they brought her on. She wasn't essential to the case. They would have had 5 witnesses and only 2 or 3 pattern witnesses instead of 1 more, because it allows the defense to really go out with a tremendous victory. I mean, really have demolished a prosecution witness, and that leaves a bad taste in the jury's mind about the entire prosecution. You know, you hope that those pattern witnesses will leave a bad taste toward the defendant. This one too many perhaps, left a bad taste in the jury's mouth regarding the prosecution. Seemed like a big blunder for the prosecution if they'd have thought this chess moves all the way out to what Claudia's testimony actually was today.
Ashley, you know, the one thing about Lauren Young we have to remember is she's a complaining witness in the case that is looming for Harvey Weinstein out in Los Angeles. So Lauren not only going to be part of that case, but Claudia will be a part of that case as well out in L.A.
Exactly. And Lauren Young has always had a consistent version of events that she has given to prosecution and given to investigators in this case. So they had to know that Claudia was going to come in and flatly deny any involvement in the version of events that Lauren was going to testify to. So I have to agree. I think this was a misstep by the prosecution in not calling her in the beginning in their case in chief to just address the bad facts that they have. If they knew she was going to deny this allegation, they should have faced it on the out front, and they should have brought her in, and that way they can go after her credibility and show that she has motivation or reason to perhaps fudge the truth, you know, and lie on the stand, even though it's something that we don't expect or want to accuse witnesses of doing. But I think it's a real misstep for the prosecution in this case, not really taking this on head first.
Suri, how does this play with the jury?
I think the jury's going to be very confused, like we all are. Like, I absolutely agree with the law lady right here. This witness, Young, it's a great witness. I mean, people are attacking the witnesses because they never disclosed. They took too long to say something. Well, she didn't. She said something almost immediately. She didn't go to the police, but she did disclose it to friends and let them know that something terrible happened to her. And what happened? There's another person there that might lie. The problem that I see in this is the dress. You have the dress. You should have had the DNA tested by now. This is what really helps to shut down a case when you have science. And this is the one chance we have to have some science into this case, and the prosecution didn't do anything about it. Hopefully, California won't drop the ball on that.
All right, sorry, I just want to clarify one thing because you referred to Ashley as law lady, and that's what I call her too. She's one of the law ladies. That's how we found her. That's her firm. I just want to make sure folks at home don't think that you're saying something inappropriate, sir. I got your back here.
I would never take offense to it.
I got your back. All right.
Everybody should follow the law ladies right now.
Absolutely. When we come back, folks, we're going to talk about another witness who took the stand, and there is some wedding party drama involved with her testimony. We'll break it down for you next. All right. That's why she testified, because she was subpoenaed. But that's why everybody testifies. You get a subpoena in the mail. But the point of all that was Talita Maya. This was a friend and roommate of Jessica Mann, one of the two most important witnesses in this case, who was called not by prosecutors, but by the defense. Let's bring back in the think tank. And this is why witnesses testify, right, Suri? Because they get a subpoena.
Absolutely. Many times you don't want to be there. Sometimes you get an attorney.
Have you ever met a witness who wants to be there, Ashley?
I have often seen witnesses that very much so don't want to be there, but that's not really what the law says, and that's not what that little magic piece of paper that the prosecution or the defense sends you.
All right, let's take a listen to a little bit of Talita Maya on direct examination called by the defense to testify about what her friend/roommate had testified to.
During the period of time from the beginning of 2013 until 2016, when you and Jessica were no longer friends, did she ever in any way tell you that Harvey Weinstein hurt her in any way?
No.
That he ever raped her?
While we were friends, no.
That he ever forced her to do anything against her will?
No, she spoke highly of him.
And what was your impression of Jessica's relationship with Harvey Weinstein?
She seemed to really like him as a person. She would only compliment him.
All right, just so you know, that was the testimony of Talita Maya. That was the testimony, the transcript. We got the right words. We just had the wrong pictures on the screen. That's all, folks. Everything else was correct there. All right, David Katz. She described something completely different in terms of what the relationship was like. She was apparently friends and roommates with Jessica Mann, yet Jessica Mann said nothing, or she saw nothing wrong with the relationship with Harvey Weinstein. Does this completely undermine Jessica Mann as an accuser?
Well, I don't think it completely undermines her, but again, this was a very strong attack by the defense, because we often have in these cases where a defendant says the accuser is making it up, and then the accuser has a friend, and the prosecution calls the friend to say, oh, well, it's usually a she. She told me that at the time. My friend told me that at the time. This isn't a recent fabrication. But this does look like a more recent fabrication from the defense theory, because at the time, maybe she was scared of Harvey Weinstein. Maybe she wanted to get a big break in show business from Harvey Weinstein. But why would she deceive her friend? Why wouldn't she tell her roommate what the real truth was? So the argument by the defense is going to be this accusing witness did tell the truth at the time. And the truth at the time was that Harvey Weinstein didn't rape her, and that these allegations are bogus, and that this is all the reinvention and the reformulation later on as part of being a team of accusers and as part of trying to get civil damages against the hugely wealthy Harvey Weinstein one day. That's what the defense is going to say, and they're going to use this witness, this friend, as a tremendous witness in their behalf. And the witness also said, it's not like I hated her, we're not really friends anymore, but I don't have any great enmity toward her. I'm just telling you the truth of what happened during our friendship at the time, which was that she only had the best to say about Harvey Weinstein at the time that it mattered.
And now the rest of the story comes out on cross-examination, where we find out that roommate and friend back in the day, but then something happened because she was originally a bridesmaid and then she wasn't. Take a listen.
Hi, Miss Maya. How are you?
Hi.
When Ms. Rotuno asked you if you were still friends with Jessica, you said you sort of just drifted apart. Is that correct?
Not drifted apart. That's not what I said. I said we weren't as close as we were when we were living together.
But that's not true, right? In fact, you twice had a very, very bitter falling out, and you, in fact, very much dislike Jessica Mann. Is that correct?
In 2016?
Right now.
I don't dislike Jessica.
Well-
Let me explain. I don't dislike Jessica. Jessica did things in my life that impacted my life in a very negative, in a terrible, terrible way, and I wish I didn't have to go through that. I don't hate her or anything like that.
Well, in fact, would it be fair to say that you invited Harvey Weinstein to your wedding but didn't invite Jessica? Is that correct?
No, of course not. She was one of my bridesmaids. I stopped talking to her and I told her, I don't want you in my life anywhere. Therefore, you're not, obviously, she's not a bridesmaid. I invited him when she was still a guest. She was still my bridesmaid.
Whew! I think we've had reality shows about this, right? When things go really wrong in the wedding. Anyway, Bernarda Villalona, how about this? I mean, you kick someone out of your wedding party, I mean, things are getting real.
For real. I'll tell you this, Vinny, she sounded so upset. And the way that she came off by saying, like, look, you know, we were friends then. She was a negative part of my life, and I just want to move on from that. Like, she's really upset with Jessica Mann. And at this point, it comes off that she's really upset. And I think that the prosecution can play it to their advantage because since she had so many negative things to say in the way that she came off on the stand, they can say that she has a reason not to say what actually Jessica said. But in the alternative, also, the prosecution can also adopt everything that she said and go with Jessica Mann just wanted to please people. She didn't want to look bad in a negative light in front of her friends, like Jessica Mann testified when she was in the hotel. She didn't want her friends to see her coming out with Harvey. So they have two options of how to play this in closing arguments. So it's not all over yet.
Yeah, sorry, this is, seemingly devastating testimony. Then we find out that, you know what, they're not, and the defense kept saying, your friend, your friend, your friend. They're not friends. You kick someone out of your bridal party, that's like forever. That's a problem.
They're definitely not BFFs anymore. And isn't it curious that every single witness that comes through was very close to the accuser, and after they determined that they weren't being truthful, now they're very close to Harvey. Where's the unbiased witness that, yes, she never said anything and she didn't outcry, and I also didn't get a deal from Harvey, and I'm not his best friend, and we don't hang out, and I don't pitch ideas to him anymore? Where are those witnesses? I want to hear about those.
Ashley, when you invite someone to be a member of your bridal party, that's a huge, huge deal.
Yes, that's like a best friend, like a sister. And what she said on the stand was she did terrible, terrible things to me that impacted my life. I mean, she went from, but I don't hate her or anything. I'm sorry, but I think the prosecution did a great job in bringing out the kind of this animosity in this witness and getting her to say what I believe was the truth, which was an emotional response saying, no, look, I don't hate her, but really she did terrible, terrible things to me. And she wasn't in my wedding anymore, and I was still inviting Harvey Weinstein, but I wasn't inviting her. I mean, come on, that's bias all day long.
David Katz, it sounds like there's a real grudge here. So I've got to now take her testimony with a huge grain of salt.
Well, I think you do have to take it with a huge grain of salt. And I think that was very good cross-examination by the prosecution to bring out that quote that another one of your guests latched onto, too, about terrible, terrible, terrible things in my life. That certainly was a great get for the prosecution on cross-examination. But, turning to like unbiased records of what happened at the time, there are emails at the time which also hurt some of the accusers. That's one of the big stories of the previous days, but like the email that was sent and then the reaction to having the email read and all of that kind of stuff, there were statements that were made by the accusers at the time which can't be disputed because they were email or other records, and they're also not good for the accusers. I mean, I've been surprised as the case has been going on because I think I was like a lot of lawyers who, had a pretty good idea that after 6 witnesses, I thought this was going to be more of a slam dunk for the prosecution than it seems to be at the moment.
Yeah, this is anything but a slam dunk, but we're getting a lot closer to those closing arguments, and I believe this time next week we'll be waiting to hear from that jury. In the meantime, We heard from you today. Reaction on social media. I posted a quote from Harvey Weinstein's defense attorney, Donna Rotuno, and man, were people sounding off. We'll talk about that when we return.
What reason would these women have to lie?
We have created a society of celebrity victimhood status. We have created a society where women don't have to take any responsibility for their actions. And we have created a society where if we say believe all women, that means we're not supposed to question anyone at all. So there is absolutely no risk for a woman to come forward now and make a claim. Zero.
All right, that's Donna Rotuno, Harvey Weinstein's attorney, on the New York Times podcast, answering some questions. Now, there's another question she was asked, which is there anything that you think that men need to do differently? So the answer to that question I posted today on my Facebook page. Here was her answer to that, and I wanted to get your reaction to her answer. She said, I think men also need to be very clear about their intentions. And if I was a man in today's world, before I was engaging in sexual behavior with any woman today, I would ask them to sign a consent form. Wow. Your reaction to that today on social media. We begin with our comment of the day coming from Wendy, who wrote, as much as I feel he took sexual advantage of most of these women, I agree with his attorney. Only because some women outside of this case have lied about being raped and sexually abused. The ones who lied are the ones who have caused most of society to not believe the women who were really raped and sexually abused. Plus, it protects the man from being accused. But the man better make sure the woman signing the consent form isn't drugged or drunk at the time of the sending. Bernarda Villalona joining us tonight in New York City. A consent form. Are we at that point today?
Well, I guess it depends what kind of stature you have in society. If you feel that you're going to remain or be the target of women coming after you after the fact and saying that you violated them in some way, go ahead, get your consent form. Go even farther, videotape it so there's no issue at all as to whether they voluntarily consented to having sexual relations with you. In terms of her response as to the consent form, I'm okay with it. What I'm not okay with when it comes to Donna is for her to say that there are no repercussions for any woman that comes forward and is falsely saying that they were actually raped. I do disagree with her in that because there are repercussions. There are repercussions in terms of criminal prosecution. So that does exist.
Now, let me just mention one thing. I mean, if you are doing this thing on video, make sure you have consent to videotape before you videotape as well. Just want to keep it clear.
Yes.
All right, Stephen writing tonight, she's smart, but that's a dumb thing to say. This case is about an abuse of power on his part. He clearly wasn't looking to get consent from anyone. Ashley McMahan, is this about his power, not so much consent?
Absolutely. And I do think it was a poor choice of words on the part of his defense attorney. I don't see any way you spin that where she sounds remotely compassionate or remotely, aware of the fact that this is a case of not only credibility of the accusers and credibility of her own client, but it's also a case where one person had an immense amount of power that vastly outweighed the power that any of these accusers and most people even have in this world. I mean, Harvey Weinstein's a very powerful man. And to just kind of throw that comment out and act like, he's an everyday man that's just being accused, I think really rings hollow.
Christine tonight is writing to us as well, saying, I agree. If in a powerful position, anyone can claim anything, true or not. David Katz, let me ask you something. What are the repercussions for someone who's been falsely accused? What happens to that false accuser in the real world?
Well, I think the reality is not much. I've actually represented, I mainly represent white-collar cases, federal income tax evasion, that sort of thing. But I have had to wealthy clients who were accused, and in my opinion, neither one of them was righteously accused. Neither one of them was properly accused. One of them, we had a 7-5 jury in favor of acquitting, and then they gave my client a minor misdemeanor, and he was fine with that. And the other case was dismissed. And there really were no repercussions. And I think the thing that concerns me, everyone should get justice, and prosecutors should always be diligent and ask hard questions. I think everyone could agree with that, but sometimes in the fervor of the moment, it seems like maybe people are not asking the kinds of hard questions. I think people should look back at this case and say, did the prosecutor really ask for hard questions? Why didn't they try to get the dress at the time? Why didn't they try to get some of those emails and other exculpatory evidence at the time? And of course, they've always had the problem that, you know, these two victims, you have to believe two victims, alleged victims in this case. If you don't believe those two beyond a reasonable doubt, the case against Harvey Weinstein falls, it collapses. And so as to those two, each one of them had consensual sex by her own admission afterwards, and each one of them had friendly relations with Harvey Weinstein afterwards. And in the New York Times said there's only one such case in the country, as I read the Times article, and it ended in an acquittal. Those are extraordinarily hard cases. I know they felt a lot of political pressure to bring it against Harvey Weinstein. Maybe there was a lot of pressure on many, many fronts, but no matter what, the prosecutors have to ask hard questions. They have a duty to do justice, not to try to just get convictions or to get convictions that are politically popular, but really to do justice. And, you know, hard cases make bad law. So I guess we'll see what happens here.
Suri, I noticed that you were reacting. Go ahead.
This is an extremely hard case. It's very brave of the prosecutors to go forward with it. It is very difficult to prove these cases, and a lot of people are able to get away with it. A lot of very powerful people are able to get away with it. I think that the real question is, if he was to get them to sign a consent agreement, how can they trust anything he signs? I mean, did he keep his vows? Did he not cheat on his wife multiple times? And now he's bragging about all this woman wanted to help him cheat on his wife? Which one is it?
Darlene tonight writing, she's making big bucks to defend a sexual predator. Of course, she would say something like that. Bernarda, your thoughts about, you know, the other side. You're a prosecutor, defense attorneys. Do you trust everything that they say?
In terms of what, attorneys, everything that they say? Or what
defense attorneys, are they speaking out of their true beliefs, or are they speaking because they get paid to say these things? What are your thoughts on that?
See, when it comes to defense attorneys, what I think happened with Donna when she said that, you got to think, what is Donna's bread and butter? Her bread and butter, where she gets it from, is actually from defending these people that actually have been accused of sexually assaulting women. Like, if you look at all the cases that she has taken, it's all having to do with people that have accused certain individuals. And she has to say what she needs to say so she can be that face that when you're looking for an attorney because you've been accused of a sexual crime, that you're thinking about hiring her. This is where she gets her money from. So obviously she's going to say that. In terms of prosecutors, see, prosecutors were held at a different light. You can't just go out there and just say anything and everything. You have to be right in what you're saying. You are the face of justice. You are the face of law enforcement. You represent the criminal justice system and must speak according to what is actually going on, as opposed to taking on a position because it is the position most liked by the public. You have to do what's right. And I think that's exactly what the DA's office, the New York County DA's office, did in this case. Are you saying because you don't have a strong case, that because these victims have all these inconsistencies, that they don't have their right to justice, that they don't have their right to their day in court? No victim is perfect. Obviously, our victims and our witnesses, they come to us because the defendants make them our victim and witnesses. So we take on their baggage. We can't pick and choose who's going to be our victim or our witnesses. They are who they are, and they deserve their day in court.
Well stated. The state rests. When we come back, folks, who had a better day today? Was it the prosecution or defense? We're in the defense case, but did they win the day? Our think tank will let you know next.
Do you know if Jessica had seen Harvey without you at any point?
Well, as far as I can recall, the one time she told me was right after she met him. She had gone to meet him in a hotel.
And what did she tell you about that meeting?
That she went upstairs with him after the meeting and she sang for him.
Did she tell you she was uncomfortable about that at all?
No, she was very happy.
And when you agreed to drive Miss Mann to the montage, tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what happened at the montage.
Well, we went to the bar and we were having drinks. Eventually, the bar was closing, so I went to the bathroom before we had to leave. And when I got out of the bathroom, I got kind of surprised by them in the lobby. They asked me to go upstairs with them, and they were very clear there was nothing for me to worry about. It was like a suite.
What did you see Harvey and Jessica do?
They went in the room and they closed the door.
Did she ever, in any way, tell you that Harvey Weinstein hurt her in any way?
No.
That he ever raped her?
Well, we were friends, no.
That he ever forced her to do anything against her will?
No, she spoke highly of him.
You didn't find it odd that Jessica and Mr. Weinstein went inside the bedroom and just left you without a word in the living room?
What is known about Harvey nowadays, I did not know back then. I had no reason to think that I was in harm, so they specifically said it's not going to take a long time. Can you please come with us? I got caught off guard. I'm like, okay.
And Jessica happily went into the bedroom, to your observation?
Yes.
Did you say that Miss Mann told you that Mr. Weinstein was very controlling of her?
Yeah, she did say.
Do you also recall Jessica telling you how that she was extremely upset and uncomfortable when the defendant wanted her to do things with an Italian woman?
Yeah, she told me that.
Talita was an important witness today because of what she said about Jessica Mann and about what her relationship was really like with Harvey Weinstein. Talita, she says that this was like a boyfriend to Jessica Mann, that she called him her spiritual soulmate. That word stood out to me, something very surprising that this witness would say about someone that was her former good friend.
Did you ever lure Lauren Young into a bathroom with Harvey Weinstein?
No.
Did you ever lock Lauren Young in a bathroom with Harvey Weinstein?
No.
Ever stand outside of a bathroom door while Lauren Young was inside with Harvey Weinstein?
No, never.
Ever see Lauren Young follow a naked Harvey Weinstein out of a bathroom with a white dress around her elbows?
Absolutely not.
Do you remember also telling us that you don't remember anything involving a bathroom? But I'm not saying it isn't true. Do you remember telling us that?
I don't remember saying that.
Do you remember further telling us that I don't recall it, but it could have happened?
Again, if I said that, it was suggesting that it could have happened, but that didn't mean that I was there.
Do you remember telling us that Harvey Weinstein told you to tell Lauren Young that he could help her with her career? Do you remember that?
No.
Do you remember telling the district attorney he was not very ethical?
Objection.
Overruled.
Do you recall that?
I may have used those words, but I didn't mean it literally.
Can you tell us what you meant?
You know, Mr. Weinstein was just, he had to have his way. He was just a strong personality. So, I don't really know what I meant. It was just a remark.
She doesn't remember ever being up in the bathroom with Lauren Young, and that was the crux of Lauren's testimony, that she was really escorted up to this bathroom by both of these people, Claudia Salinas and Harvey Weinstein, and that she was trapped in this bathroom by Claudia. Claudia today saying on the stand that never happened.
All right, day 14 in the books. And again, we're in the defense case here, folks. So you've got the defense putting their witnesses on the stand, putting forth evidence that they believe will help them raise a reasonable doubt in this case, or perhaps prove that Harvey Weinstein is just 100% innocent. I mean, it's not their burden, but it certainly could be happening in this courtroom. So let's bring back in our think tank tonight. And let's come up with a little verdict for today. Who had the better day? Was it the prosecution or defense? We'll begin with criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor David Katz. Who had a better day?
Well, I think obviously the defense had the better day. The defense actually had a devastating day because they had Claudia, the Mexican actress. She was very strong. And they had other witnesses who undercut the credibility of various members, various alleged victims. If I could just say one other thing very quickly regarding everyone having their day in court. Everyone should have their day in court, but with the force of the prosecutor behind them, that's a decision that's solely up to the prosecutors, and they ought to make it with great care.
Bernarda Villanova, you are a prosecutor. Who had a better day today?
Unfortunately, I have to say that the defense had a better day, Vinny, and it really hurts me. But they had a better day because they were able to create chaos and confusion. These jurors are going to have to decide which side to actually believe. What tools do they have to determine who's telling the truth and who's not? Because all we have is testimony on the defense side, testimony on the prosecution side, and they have to find a way to figure out who they need to believe. And unfortunately, in circumstances like this, usually it doesn't go in the way of the prosecution. So complete chaos, complete confusion, but I think the prosecution can overcome this.
Ashley McMahan, criminal defense attorney, who had a better day today?
Well, Vinny, I have to say I agree with your other guests. It was the defense today. Now, I don't think that necessarily is going to be the end-all, be-all of this case, but I think the major failure that we saw today was the fact that all of the jurors were really surprised when Claudia took the stand and said none of this ever happened. And the prosecution should have anticipated that the defense was going to make this move, that they were going to call her as a witness, that she was on the witness list. And I think the failure on the prosecution to anticipate this, to mention it, to even bring it up, carried the day for the defense. So I'm going with the defense.
Sir, Chara Jimenez, you are a criminal defense attorney, but who had the better day today? Was it the prosecution or defense?
As much as I like to be a contrarian, I agree with all the guests. Definitely, it was a great day for the defense. And as one of the witnesses said, I think it was a great day for the defense because what is known about Harvey nowadays, they found people that would be willing to testify on his behalf. And that's crazy to get out there and with what society knows about him, because this is not it. This is one trial. We still got California, we still got London, and we just have what it's known to the court of public opinion. And you still get up there under oath and are defending this man. So that is props to the defense. They did an amazing job.
All right. I'm going to say prosecutors because, and the only reason I'm saying this, I thought the cross-examination was great. Bridesmaid kicked out of the wedding party. Come on, am I going to believe anything that the other person says? And are you really going to come into court and admit that you shut that door to let Harvey Weinstein sexually assault someone? All right, Chanley Painter has a look ahead to what's going to happen tomorrow.